What's good, Sagittarius? You're my highest rating, so you get another one. Walking away. 8 of Cups. You're no longer emotionally satisfied with the situation that you got going on in your current environment. And you're going towards something that you feel that will be more fulfilling for you. Maybe you have a move coming up, a move out of a job, possibly out of a relationship, but it seems like you have more options. You have options that you feel that are in front of you that could be more emotionally fulfilling for you, because what you're dealing with now is not fulfilling at all. And you want to make, you're going towards it. You want to make moves to go towards it. What's the situation that's crossing you, Sagittarius? What's the situation? Two Cups in reverse. So you have a breakup of a situation, a soulmate situation, could be a breakup within, you have a soulmate that you're thinking of and you want to go towards. Maybe there could be a distance between you guys and now you want to close that distance out. What crosses you is a relationship, possibly. Maybe it's the distance, or maybe it's something that you got going on now. Maybe it's a lot of ties that you have to your current situation. Maybe it's a current relationship, but then you're moving away from it because it's not fulfilling you, and you're moving towards someone that you, maybe a different soulmate, another soulmate, someone that you were thinking about, someone that you have been and you haven't heard from in a while. With this moon, it has a lot of it has a lot of secrecy towards it. Maybe you haven't heard from them for a while. Maybe they blocked you out or you blocked them out, and now you want to open up that communication, and you've been separated from this person for a while. Your foundation, 3 of Swords, you feel heartbroken. You've just gone through a betrayal, Sag. I'm sorry. You feel betrayed by someone, by a soulmate situation. And maybe you want to go towards another soulmate situation or something or somewhere that could be emotionally fulfilling for you right now, because you feel like you were betrayed. And you feel like you're betrayed by somebody that you had a lot of trust in, Sag. Someone that you felt like could never do that to you, and you got surprised. What's this past? It's a past situation for Sag. Messages. Past situation was you didn't want what was offered. You weren't really interested in it. Maybe you felt like what was offered, it didn't have a lot of reality based in it. There could have been a lot of extenuating circumstances, like maybe that this was a long-term distance relationship. Maybe, and you couldn't really see like how it would be able to work out. It's like, well, this isn't, how are we going to make this work? There's a separation, or maybe you kind of like wanted a situation, but you didn't want to show it. You wanted it to be offered to you, and you were waiting for that offer, but then the offer, and you were kind of playing hard to get, or somebody was playing hard to get with you, and you thought that they would keep working. Like maybe you wanted to test love, or you gave your love to somebody and they didn't want it, and it left you heartbroken. Maybe in the past you didn't want a situation because you had another one going on with somebody within your area and it didn't work out, and you blocked somebody out to kind of go to this current situation, and it didn't work out, and now you're thinking about the one you left behind. I've seen this story before. 5. What's your goals, Sag? Your goals, Sag. What's your goals? 7 of Cups. So, you feel like you have an options. You feel like you have a lot of options, actually. 7 of Cups. So, when you have a cup, that's emotion. That's a cup of emotion. An emotion is usually seen and depicted as water, but instead of all of these cups depicted as water, you have like a dragon, you have a snake, you have all of these dream things, illusionary things, but there's no real water in it. You know, it's like you feel like you have a lot of options, but maybe it's not the kind of options that have, and you wanted to keep a lot of options possibly, and maybe the options that you had, it didn't really fulfill you, or it's not really an option in the end. It was just kind of like, you know, this is like that illusionary state. This is like having like those 300 friends on Facebook and thinking that they're all your friends, you know, and having all of these people flirt with you on Facebook that live in many different states. And, you know, it's like when you hit them up when you're in town, nobody picks up their phone. You know what I mean? Like friends or love interests. This is like illusionary state. This is like, you know, it's not a lot of substance to it. And maybe you had a lot of friends or, you know, options wise that, you know, it kind of like was superficial, and maybe you wanted to hold out because you wanted to keep a lot of options. You know, like the most that can be achieved, this is your goals, is to have a lot of options. You know, and maybe that's your thing. Like you've just got like betrayed. You're not looking to settle down. You're looking to explore your options, and hey, whatever, that's okay. As long as you're like open and honest as to what your intentions are when you go into it, and you don't misrepresent yourself, you know, and telling people you want a relationship then running out off of them. It's like, hey, you want to have a good time? You know what I mean? So you guys are like on the same page, you know. The issue is, and this feeling of betrayal is when you go into a situation, you know, like presenting yourself in one way, and then it turns out to be you just wanting to have fun, and that's where the betrayal happens, you know. So it's okay to have fun, you do your thing, but just make sure you're upfront about it, because then it could be kind of like, you know, you don't want to hurt other people the way they hurt you, because that's bad karma, right? Because whatever hurt that you put out, it kind of comes back to you in certain ways by one, either losing that relationship, a long-standing one, or kind of like burning a bridge, or, you know. So what's ahead of you? What's ahead of you, Sag? What's ahead of you, Sag? What's ahead of you? What is your future? What is just before you? What's ahead of you, Sagittarius? Sagittarius, what's ahead of you? 5 of Cups. Regret. Crying over spilled milk. So, feeling regretful. In the past, you didn't want an offer. You wanted to explore your options, and you wanted to put somebody on hold because you didn't think it had a lot of reality in that option, you know? So you wanted to kind of put it on ice to maybe like, you know, maybe if you wanted to, you know, visit that person again one day, but you don't want to completely cut them off, but you don't want to completely invest in them either. It's having all of these different ties to different many options and trying to keep those options open in order for you to kind of, you know, move freely within that situation and out of it. And that's why you never wanted to settle down. Maybe you've had a lot of history with getting caught up with people, long distance people, and, you know, kind of like, oh, I really love this person who lives long distance, or I really love this person with like a terminal illness, or I really love this person who's married, you know? It's like putting yourself in situations that you know that could never really work out because maybe you have a fear of intimacy yourself. I don't know. But in the past, you didn't really want it when it was offered to you, or they didn't want it from you because you didn't feel like it had a lot of substance to it. It didn't have a future for it. And you didn't want to invest in things that you didn't feel like would have any future with it. You felt like it wasn't doable, like it would waste your time. And you had a lot of different options that seemed more realistic, but it ended up turning out to be flat. Like it wasn't really much of an option in the end. And you didn't want to accept what you didn't think would turn out because you thought you had a bunch of options, but it turns out that those options were more illusionary than truth. And it left you regretful. This is spilling, like crying over spilled milk about what was lost. And it's like a grief that you have instead of, and you're crying over all of the milk that was spilt, or, and you're not seeing that you still have 2 full cups. And you feel regretful because now you feel like you burnt bridges, because maybe you did have a soulmate connection with one of those options, and maybe you were not very careful with their feelings because you kind of treated them the way you did with all of your other options. But this is someone you had a long history with and a long soul tie. Maybe you were more friends than you were lovers, and you didn't expect yourself to grieve as much as you did when you got cut off. And maybe you were playing hard to get, and and you were being the runner, and then the other person didn't chase, and now you're regretful. You know, how you see yourself, the high priestess, this is you trying to go within. This is you trying to listen to your intuition. This is you being quiet and having a deeper knowing without speaking it, because she's a keeper of secrets. She's more into the communication with the divine itself, but sometimes they could be kind of not very good with relationship-wise because they could tend to be kind of cerebral or within themselves, or they seem disconnected from the world around them on the negative end because they communicate mainly with the divine. And it's maybe needing to go within to kind of like see what's happening with the relationships around you as well, and starting to look within to see why it is that things turned out the way they did. Maybe it was because you didn't say things when you needed to, or you didn't invest when you needed to. Because maybe you felt like when things got hard, then you were very quick to walk away. And you didn't express your emotions. You didn't express how you feel. Maybe if this person argued with you a lot or gave you a lot of conflict, instead of speaking and working it out, you kind of just went within and just kind of held all of that within you and just kind of like kept note of it in the book of sins, and then it like accumulates so much that you feel like it can't work out, and then instead of speaking and communicating it, you leave into something that you think that it could be better, and then you end up feeling regretful. Because maybe it's not just a fear of commitment, but maybe it's a lack of communication. That maybe you want to say things, but you have trouble speaking it because you have trouble finding it yourself sometimes. What's your environment? But you're not speaking. You feel something, but you don't speak. You know things, but you don't want to speak it. What's your environment, Sag? What's your environment for Sag? Environment for Sag. Page of Clubs. You want to send out a message of some kind of movement. They want to send a message to you. How they see you, your home, your surroundings. She's outside of yourself. They want to send a message to you, something about action and movement. Something about, like, it could even be a really immature and angry message. Like somebody could reach out to you kind of like wanting to start a fight or something. Sometimes it can be not well through communication. Sometimes like immature communication, just speaking, you know, or it could be a message about action. But it seems like maybe when people try to communicate with you, you become defensive, and sometimes you say things that from hurt or surprise, or that can be kind of mean and immature, and instead of listening you become reactive and defensive, and there's no communication with it. Queen of Coins, your hopes and fears, attain goal, lesson to be learned. So your hopes and fears, the lesson to be learned, that's blocking your path or development. The Queen of Coins. So the Queen of Coins, this is an earth sign. Could be a Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo. But this is someone who is nurturing. You know, she can be considered like the mother. This is someone who nurtures things around her. This is someone who is like that, can be that business owner. It can be somebody, but it's somebody that is like, she's not into wants. She manifests tangibly. She nurtures things around her. Maybe it's a need to put more effort into people and places and things, or relationships in general, and be more like consistent. And maybe you have to nurture things and communicate more, because it's like learning a new skill. It's like, you know, maybe in the past you could have communicated that all you wanted was fun, and maybe there wasn't time to communicate, and maybe you had options to communicate, but it was a lack of communication that happened, and you didn't want that offer, and you didn't communicate that. Somebody took it as like, okay, well, you don't want that offer, I'm walking away, and now you're regretful because, you know, you didn't think that they could cut you off. You think that, well, you know, I could just keep this option open. You know, it's not that serious. And it turned out that this person didn't want to be one of your options. Maybe you were a little more optimistic into having someone wait for you, and it's like expecting a whole bunch, like you're expecting a big harvest, but you didn't nurture it, like you didn't reap it, like you didn't, you know, you didn't plant the seeds, you didn't like water it, and you feel like you could always return to it and it would be abundant and amazing, but it doesn't really work like that, because if you don't invest into it, like, you're not going to get a good investment back. You reap what you sow. You know, you'll have a harvest to the garden that you tend to, and maybe that's what's needed to be learned. What's your outcome for Sag? Ugh! Jesus, this got everywhere. Okay. Outcome. What is this? 3 popped out. Your outcome. What you will gain from this experience, the reward or tool that will help you achieve. Page of Coins. You want to go out and give an offer now. An offer of love and emotion. And you want to go towards it. Possibly giving an offer to a Cancer. And you possibly want to give out that message that you actually really care for this person, like you figured it out and you want to make movement towards them and go towards it. That's your outcome. What you want, you have to work for. And that goes with everything in life, with relationships, with careers, with jobs. No one's going to stick around and wait for you to return. And they're not going to continually be welcoming with that open door for that to be an open cycle. Like, people are getting older. They don't want to have a bunch of, like, friends with benefits. Like, maybe some men or women who never really want to have anything steady because they have everything within themselves. Maybe somebody who does like a lot of attention, but you know, but it really just depends on what you want. I mean, if you go towards something, your goals is to have a lot of options, and now you're going towards it and you're offering love and you're going towards it quickly, and you want to say that you want to give to a situation, but then you want to keep your options open because you feel like you're heartbroken, and maybe the distance that you had with somebody kind of made you miss them. But it's not like you still want to have a bunch of offers. Or you're unsure about what this offer, what it could bring about. Maybe you're unsure if they'll want your offer. Maybe you feel like You have a different idea about how you'll be received. But what's underneath is the devil, something unknown. It could be an addiction, maybe a sex addiction, attention addiction. Maybe you're in need of a rebound because you got your heart broken. And you're regretful of somebody that you cut off in the past because, you know, because you want to reach out to one of your options. I don't know. It looks kind of like you're looking for a rebound because you got hurt, you know, and I would be careful on, I mean, whatever. It's just that, just be honest with what you want out of this. You know, if you go into a situation acting one way and really just wanting a bunch of options, you could potentially hurt somebody. And maybe it's not you not wanting to do that or you not expecting to see that, but maybe it's you needing to go within and ask yourself, why is it that I need that attention? Like, why is it that you feel like you need to have a lot of options? Is it something within yourself that you feel lacking? Is it a lack of your own self-worth or self-love that you need that validation? And maybe it's taking that time to look within yourself and ask yourself why, because it's not giving you the result that you want because you're ultimately unhappy and you're heartbroken. And outside validation, it never really fulfills you as much as you think it does. That's why you constantly have to have so many, because once you get it, it's not as fulfilling. You know, and that outward validation is kind of like eating junk food for every meal. It's just not nourishing and it's not filling. Like, you constantly feel hungry an hour or two later, or you know, it's empty calories, like your body does not feel good, and it brings bad outcomes, because in the end, you know, you could hurt people, but it's like, you know, maybe you do have like that hunger for that attention or that validation, and it could even be like an addiction to it. And it's something to look within and to ask yourself of why that is. Let's see. Just ask yourself, Sag, does having a bunch of options really fulfill you? Does it nurture your soul? And if it did, why would you continually have to keep up multiple options? And why do you feel unfulfilled with it ultimately? Maybe it's needing to take a time out and sit within yourself, and instead of running from the pain of what happened, it's time to sit with it. Instead of constantly validating, chasing. And it's not even just with relationships. Maybe it's with family members too. Maybe it's attending to wanting to be that everything for everyone, that best friend for everyone, because you think that everyone's your best friend, and you want to, and you have your energy so spread out that you can't keep focus on where it needs to be, which is your internal, your house, your home, your immediate family people, you know, because you're in this illusionary state, which is all around you. This is your advice there and now. Be okay with the now, with the present. There's nowhere to go to in the future that you should be. It's not useful to think of all that you have in front of you and all of the things that could be, because that's just living in lack. There's no point into considering all the things that happened in the past, because it's past situation. It's time to let that go, and all it does is leave you ruminating, and it could even be a sign of depression. It's time to open your eyes and be present with the here and now within yourself, and not trying to find that externally from outside of you, because it's ultimately, you know, it's unfulfilling. It's like trying to feed a hunger that's never filled. And it's striving to go towards something constantly, because if it's just given, you don't really want it. But then if you're chasing, you feel like it's worth it to you, but then it's ultimately illusionary because you have to chase after it. It's time to look within yourself, be present in the here and now, appreciate the here and now, what all the gifts that you have now, because otherwise you're just devaluing all of the things that you have at your disposal, all of the relationships that you have at your disposal, you know, and you want to be grateful for everything that you have now, because if you continually chase after things that you don't have, and you're coming from a place of lack, that's ultimately what the universe will give you. Because if you're not appreciative of what you have, why would the universe give you more? You're just, if you continually focus on lack, that's what you'll get, is more lack. Yin in reverse. This is you know, needing to nurture yourself. This is needing to go within and nurture yourself. This could be a lack of mothering in your past. Maybe you feel like you weren't nurtured by a mother figure. Maybe you feel like you had to raise yourself in a lot of ways. And maybe it set you up with a situation that you didn't want to be dependent on any kind of female figure, or man or woman or whatever. You didn't want to be dependent to any one person, because we kind of mirror the relationships we have with the worst parent we have within our relationships. And maybe in some way you project that feeling of not being nurtured onto the other people that you're involved with, like they could never fully nurture you, or they could abandon you, and so you never really want to get too close, and so you feel like it's safer to have a lot of options, because what should be the most important relationship to you, your mother that teaches you how to have those reciprocal, loving, nurturing relationship, you feel like you didn't get it. And it's time to kind of nurture yourself and remother yourself and be okay with where you are, and understanding that no one ever intentionally, even our parents, intentionally wants to hurt you. It's just that they were going through things too. Maybe their planets weren't aligned at the moment, and they were going through hard times, and that result ended up hurting you, but it wasn't intentional. And now it's learning new skills on how to nurture yourself, because when you nurture yourself, you could nurture others, and it's not really beneficial to constantly chase after your next high. It is like an addiction, like that serotonin high, because it's like chasing that dragon. It's never as fulfilling as you thought it would be, because you ultimately end up feeling empty. You're feeling empty, and you don't want to go towards situations like that. Be present in the here and now. Nurture yourself. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed, overworked, exhausted, and you keep pushing yourself. And it's you not taking care of yourself and nurturing yourself. And that's needed. It's time to be present within yourself. Get out of your head. Nurture yourself, your tangible well-being, your health in general, your emotional, your physical health. Instead of jumping ship and going to the next thing that's gonna ultimately make you feel fulfilled. Spirit is trying to send you messages. A message will come, or maybe you want to send a message out. What's this message? You feel overwhelmed, overworked, overburdened. It's time for you to appreciate the here and now. A message will come towards you, or you want to send out a message about building something. Or Spirit is trying to send you a message that it's time for you to build within yourself, is really what it is. It's time to nurture yourself. It's time to fill your own cup, because you're not emotionally happy with anything that you're being offered, even the multiple options. Take time within. Don't be hasty. Time to nourish yourself. Spirit is trying to send you a message to start building the life that you want. Because if you keep on chasing those illusions, those mirages, you're just going to come up with the same situation. A never-ending story. Look within and breathe life into things, into yourself. Breathe life into yourself. Bring life into yourself, because that energy you're expelling to things that you feel like will fulfill you ultimately doesn't, and you know that. It's time to build within yourself, because if you keep on doing the same thing, you're going to get the same reaction, and it's starting to frustrate you. It's time to be done with the patterns. It's time to build within yourself and be okay within yourself, and ultimately learn that those outside validation, that intention, you know it's not fulfilling. And it's been trying to tell you that with all the conflict you've been having with it. Because it has just bringing you a lot of conflict. Because it has like you're searching for an ideal, someone that could kind of fulfill you, but you're never going to get that if you're not fulfilled within yourself. It's time, it seems like, whatever, maybe in the past situation you did try to put a lot of effort into it. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't nurture this situation, and you want to send out a message to build, but you know it's going to bring you the same situation, the same conflict that it always does. And instead of building and investing into other people, it's time to invest in yourself, because when you invest in other people, ultimately you're going to feel unfulfilled, And it's just going to bring conflict as a result. Sit and breathe life into you, into your, it's time to like remother yourself, to get your self-validation, and to heal from the lack of love that you felt within yourself. Or maybe you had a fear of investing into things or other people because you have been hurt a lot. But if it brings you conflict in the past, know that it'll bring a lot more conflict. It's like you want to send a message that you want to work on it, but don't. Breathe. Take time out. Don't do anything hasty. And because ultimately, it's not going to fulfill you. It's just going to bring more conflict. It's time to be fair. I never noticed that. She's wearing a mask. It's time to be fair, because maybe you've gone into situations saying that you wanted to build things, and then maybe you went in with not exactly the most honest of intentions before. And now it's time to be more honest with yourself and with the other people around you. And then when you're starting to be more honest with yourself and other people around you, you start realizing what it is that you really need, because maybe you're in a lot of confusion to what you even really want or you really feel, because it's like a disassociation from that emotional part, you know? Because it's something that you didn't want to develop, because it was like you feel like that maybe you turned off that part of you for a while as a defense mechanism to keep yourself safe. But then, and maybe you didn't want to outly, I don't know. It's time to be fair. Keep yourself balanced and not trying to find other or people or other situations to balance you. So I guess that's what I got for you, Sag. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you like that. And I'll see you next time. Bye.